In India, if someone says, bring the JCB, they may not actually mean a JCB. They simply mean an excavator. That is the level of dominance the company achieved. The brand name became shorthand for an entire category of machine across construction sites, villages, highways, farms, and expanding cities. The yellow arm of a JCB became closely associated with development itself. Roads were widened with it. Foundations were dug with it. Entire skylines rose around it. This did not happen through marketing alone. It happened because JCB machines became almost impossible to avoid. Today, the company sells equipment in more than 150 countries and operates over 22 factories across 4 continents. In India, the name became so deeply embedded in everyday language that the Oxford English Dictionary recognizes JCB as a noun. A very few industrial companies reach that level of recognition, and fewer still remain privately owned while doing it, because behind this global business is not a publicly traded corporation built around quarterly earnings reports. It is a family company. A company started by one man in a small garage in October 1945, with a second-hand welding set bought for £1. The timing was uncertain. Europe was emerging from the destruction of the Second World War. Industries were rebuilding. Steel was scarce. An established manufacturers already dominated the market, and a rented lock-up garage in Uttoxeter, Staffordshire, Joseph Cyril Bamford decided to start his own company anyway. The workshop measured roughly 12 by 15 feet. His equipment was limited and his capital was minimal. According to company history, Bamford bought a used welding machine from English Electric for £1. To build his first products, he relied on surplus military materials left behind after the war: aircraft wheels, howitzer hubs, steel sheets from air raid shelters. Using those materials, he built an all-steel tipping trailer, the first product ever produced by JCB. When Bamford sold it for £45, he recognized an opportunity that would define the company's future. Post-war Britain needed rebuilding. Farms required mechanization, and infrastructure projects were expanding rapidly. Bamford understood that construction equipment would become one of the most important industries in the modern economy. The idea was straightforward. The world would increasingly depend on machines capable of doing more work with fewer people. That became the foundation of JCB. Through the late 1940s and early 1950s, the company focused on trailers and agricultural equipment, but Bamford was focused on efficiency. He believed one machine should be able to perform multiple jobs. In 1953, that idea produced the machine that would define the company for decades. The JCB Mk1 excavator. The concept seems familiar today, but at the time it represented a major shift in construction equipment design. Bamford combined a front loader with a hydraulic rear excavator on a single tractor-based machine. One machine capable of performing 2 separate tasks: a loader at the front, an excavator at the rear. The modern backhoe loader had arrived. Economic effect was immediate. Before the backhoe loader, contractors often depended on separate machines for digging and loading. That meant more operators, more transportation, and higher operating costs. Bamford's design reduced those requirements by combining both functions into a single machine that could move easily between jobs. It was more flexible, less expensive, and significantly more efficient. In 1954, JCB produced only 35 of these machines. Demand grew rapidly. Over the following decades, the backhoe loader became one of the most recognizable construction machines in the world. JCB expanded across Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and eventually India, where the machine became closely associated with construction itself. The scale eventually became enormous. It took JCB more than 20 years to build its first 50,000 backhoes. By 2025, the company had produced its 1 millionth backhoe loader. The first 500,000 machines took 59 years to manufacture. The second 500,000 took less than 13. That acceleration reflected the pace of global development itself. As cities expanded and emerging economies industrialized, demand for construction equipment increased sharply, and JCB positioned itself at the center of that growth, especially in India. Few companies became as closely tied to a country's physical transformation as JCB did there. Today, JCB India operates 6 factories and exports machines to more than 130 countries. The company's engineering hub in Pune reportedly handles 75% of JCB's global engineering work and employs more than 700 engineers. At the Balabgarh factory, production reached remarkable speed. One machine every 3 minutes. In 2024, JCB India rolled out its 500,000th machine. JCB's rise, however, was not driven by manufacturing scale alone. Engineering identity became just as important for Joseph Bamford and the family that followed him. Machines were demonstrations of capability as much as they were tools. Philosophy became unmistakable in the deserts of Bonneville, Utah. In 2006, JCB attempted something few expected from a construction equipment manufacturer. It built a land speed record car. The JCB Diesel Max looked nothing like an excavator. It was long, narrow, aerodynamic, and designed for a single-purpose speed. Inside were two specially developed JCB diesel engines. Each was a 5-litre, 4-cylinder engine producing approximately 750 horsepower. Together, they generated around 1,500 horsepower. Unlike traditional racing engines operating at extremely high revolutions, these diesel engines focused on efficient delivery of sustained power, following the same engineering principles JCB applied to heavy machinery. Then came the record attempt. On August 22, 2006, Diesel Max reached 328 miles per hour. One day later, it went faster, 350.092 miles per hour, the fastest diesel-powered car ever built. For many companies, a project like this would have been difficult to justify financially. Reports described the cost as running into the millions. But JCB was not trying to enter motorsport. The project was designed to demonstrate engineering capability. The message was clear: if JCB could build the fastest diesel car in history, customers could trust the engines inside its machines. Willingness to pursue unconventional projects points to one of the most important aspects of the company's structure. JCB is not publicly traded. Unlike competitors such as Caterpillar or Komatsu, the company remains privately owned by the Bamford family. That changes the way it operates. Public corporations face constant pressure from shareholders, market expectations, and quarterly reporting cycles. Long-term experimental projects are often difficult to defend. Under that structure, private ownership gave JCB more freedom to experiment, freedom to take risks, freedom to invest in technologies that may take years to become commercially viable. That approach is now shaping the company's next phase. The future of heavy machinery may not rely entirely on diesel engines, and JCB has been preparing for that transition. A company introduced the 19C1E, described as the industry's first fully electric mini excavator. Powered by a 19.8 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery, the machine was designed for enclosed or noise-sensitive environments where diesel engines are less practical. For larger machines, however, JCB concluded that batteries alone would not solve the problem. Heavy construction equipment often operates for 12-hour shifts in remote areas where charging infrastructure is limited or non-existent. Large battery systems would increase weight and reduce operating flexibility. So the company pursued a different direction: hydrogen. JCB invested £100 million into hydrogen combustion technology, employing around 150 engineers and developing more than 130 prototype engines. While much of the industry focused on battery electric systems, JCB continued developing internal combustion engines powered by a different fuel. It was another major risk, and exactly the type of decision a private family business could make without immediate shareholder pressure. Today, JCB generates roughly £6.5 billion in annual turnover. It sells more than 120,000 machines each year and employs around 15,000 people worldwide. What makes the company unusual is not only its size, it is its continuity. Many industrial giants eventually become acquisitions, mergers, or financial assets managed for shareholder value. Over time, their original identity disappears. JCB did not follow that path. A company that began in a small Staffordshire garage in 1945 remains controlled by the same family, still centered on engineering and still investing heavily in long-term industrial projects. Across much of the world, people continue using the company's name as though it were the machine itself, not an excavator, a JCB. Nearly 80 years after Joseph Cyril Bamford welded together war surplus steel into his first trailer, a company he founded continues expanding its reach across construction sites, roads, farms, and cities around the world, one bucket load at a time.